You're listening to the Long Game Podcast. I'm your host, Sandra Scaiano. I love that there are these threads of commonality through so many different types of businesses. We share similar problems and obstacles. We can also share similar creative outlets, even if we are in very different industries. So today's podcast highlights this. My guest, Shannon Mayernik, is an herbalist and plant medicine maker and creator of Mayernick Kitchen, a retail store, an online market, an herbal community, and now offering digital courses. It's where Shannon shares all of these ancient crafts in a modern way. Mayernick Kitchen offers a wide spectrum of plants and herbal medicines, really integrating and preserving this sacred bounty. And they create more than 75 products. Their herbs are sourced from their own farm in New Jersey. And they've also ventured into homesteading education, such as fermentation and composting. So Shannon has an eye for creating content. And seriously, you will oogle over her Instagram account. And we talk a lot about how she uses social media for her business, how she went viral on Instagram, and what actually happens when you do. And it's not everything we think it is. She is really dropping some gold here. And, we also talk that enjoying the content you create makes all the difference. I'm just going to beat this topic to death here on my podcast. It is practically in every episode nowadays. You must love the content you create to be successful and to keep doing it consistently. Loving what you do translates. And this concept rolls us into another on the environment that you create on social media platforms. It's really just an extension of your brand. And Shannon illustrates this so well. When you reframe it in this way, it makes so much sense. I mean, it really hit home to me. And it's giving me pause to look at my own social and to look at how I should be approaching, and how we all should be approaching and not hating on the social platforms that we participate in. So we also talk intention and how this fuels all that you do. This is the energy, the good energy that you are putting into your business. And we get a huge reminder to get out of your day-to-day. Do what interests you, as it will do so much to inspire you in your life and in your business. And really, I could go on and on because this is such a full episode, but I'm going to stop and let you get right to it. The long game is Ancient Herbs in Modern Ways with Shannon Mayernik. In a world where everyone is doing, it's easy to get lost in a sea of comparison, secret tricks, and promises of overnight success. The long game? That's my approach to business. You gotta show up, you gotta do the work, and there are no quick fixes for long-term success. It takes creativity, it takes strategy, and it takes listening to the voice inside you. I'm a web designer, digital strategist, and energetic thinker, bringing you real-world business building experiences, conversations with creators who are out there doing it now, and ideas to spark the energy in your own business. And along the way, we're gonna have a little bit of fun as well. So thanks for being here, and let's get to today's episode. All right, welcome back to the Long Game Podcast. I am so excited for today's conversation. We have Shannon Mayernik with us, who is an herbalist and plant medicine maker and creator of Mayernick Kitchen. Now, we're really going to go into a number of things with Shannon, but I'm going to tell you, if there's one thing you do from this, is go to her Instagram, because she has created a beautiful just expression of what she does and all the different pieces. And it was one of the things that really attracted me to her when we were introduced, is to just, gosh, if you have time, just spend some time scrolling. So welcome, Shannon. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So let's talk about, first, just give us, what is a plant medicine maker? I mean, give us the herbalist piece. Tell us a little overview of what you do.
Sure. So my husband and I own Mayernick Kitchen, which is a modern day herbal apothecary. And we also have an herb farm. So we're growing over 60 medicinal herbs that we then turn into our products. So we're a, true seed to product company. herbalism really could be a very wide range of things. So we're using medicinal plants, whether they're backyard weeds, things we're cultivating, things we're out in the woods foraging, and turning them into medicine that you could use for your, everyday ailments that sometimes we were brought up to turn to other types of medicines. This is an alternative. So more of a holistic, lifestyle that we've created for ourselves, and then what we teach others to incorporate into their everyday life.
And I love how you have created these products. They're, everything about what you do is gorgeous too. So it helps bridge that, what this plant medicine is and like modern world. One of the things you shared with me previously was about how during COVID, you opened your e-commerce store. And so that was really like a place for people to come and get these natural remedies during a time where everybody was like, what's going on, right?
Yeah. So we decided we started looking for a retail shop in early 2020. Everyone knows what happens. We didn't sign a lease until July of 2020. And then we didn't move in, we didn't open the doors until December of 2020. So we were still really, in the height of the pandemic, and it was, I feel, a place people felt safe to come to. People really started questioning different, I need to start incorporating, healthier things into my lifestyle. So it was a great way for us to kind of expand locally, because we had our online business for quite a few years beforehand. So it was a really great, like you said, bridge to connecting people, allowing them to come in, see what we had. We were all like needing that connection of sorts during that time. So it was great. But on the flip side, we saw so many small businesses going under because it was such a hard time. So you had that, that guilty feeling oh man, we're doing really well because of the product we're providing while others aren't. So it was a difficult time, but it was also a really exciting and fun time to be opening and being able to share this during those times.
All right, let me ask you about that. So how has that transitioned now? You've built a loyal following, you had people has that transitioned outside of that time frame where people were a little more paranoid or a little, has that stayed with you?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had people that have never used plant medicine. They would think, it's witchy, it's woo-woo, it's this, that, and the other thing. But they people, I think, were just striving for something. They needed something different. They wanted to try something new. And we've had folks that the first time trying something was, when we had first opened early, late 2020, early 2021, and are now still, things have really changed for them. They're exploring more, they're learning more, they're wanting to incorporate more. So yeah, I think it was a big shift in a lot of people's lives.
I love that you have also built your business out so that you can provide those additional touch points. So you not only make, grow and make these items, you also teach a lot about the lifestyle and what goes into it. So tell us a little bit about what you've created in that teaching realm.
Yeah. So teaching has always been a huge thing for my husband and I. We always say, us knowing all this information isn't going to benefit anyone if we're not sharing it. Keeping it to ourselves is pointless. So we've done the work. I did a 3-year apprenticeship with an herbalist. I've taken many online courses. I've read hundreds of books. So I'm educating myself, but now what I know, I'm sharing. So we teach classes in the shop, anywhere from making tinctures to herbal cocktails, which is a fun class. And then we also do a little more of the home study stuff. So we're doing jamming, canning, fermentation. So kind of just incorporating everything we do at home every day into, teaching others how to do it.
And, you bring up such a good point of, if I keep this all to myself, all of this tradition has been passed down.
Yeah.
Over the centuries, right?
Oh, yeah,
so
absolutely.
You'd be doing a disservice to the history of what you have embarked on.
Yeah. And that's the only way, folks many, many years ago were getting their medicine. They were going out into their yard. They knew the plants, they knew the trees, they knew what they could use. And that's how they were treating their everyday ailments, whether it's sleep or digestion, anxiety. It's nothing new. So yes, and it's always been taught in the passing down from generation to generation. So yeah, I would absolutely be doing a disservice if I did not, if I kept it all to myself and said, well, you just have to buy our products,
Right.
So we want to teach whoever wants to learn how to do it, how to identify plants that you could then, start making your own stuff.
In that same vein, there's a lot of community that goes on there. Like when you find someone like you with this knowledge, like you kind of attach when you want to get involved and you've built community out of this. I know you shared with me a little bit about, I talked in the beginning about your Instagram, and we talked like, how did you build this community online? Because you also dance in two worlds. Like you are this ancient world craft, yet you do things in a modern way. You've got a killer Instagram, you make all this content, you've mastered, and we're going to talk about this, like video content as well. And also these forefront thinking ideas, or these forward thinking ideas of online courses and different pieces. So building this community outside of your immediate realm is an important piece to that. So tell us what's going on with that community building, and also tell us the Instagram story.
Yeah. So, I mean, just building community, that's a huge thing for us too, because when you're in community, whether it's with a group of women in circle or, mixed men and women and, whomever coming together, and Matt does apprenticeships with, up on the farm. So he's teaching people how to farm and how to grow plants from seed to harvest. So it's all about, that community, creating your group, because then you have one another to lean on, you have one another to learn from, to share with. And it's not always about the plants, gathering around food, or whenever Matt's up on the farm with his group, they bring lunch, they share things. One girl makes sourdough bread, she brings that. So it's just like that type of communal togetherness is what, I strive off of it. I thrive off of it, actually. So that is something huge for us. And then that's within our community. So face to face, but then going into Instagram, sometimes it seems very isolating, social media, but then other times, it's like, wow, I have my group, I have my community. And, Instagram wasn't always, it's always been one of my favorite platforms. It's a love-hate relationship, to be honest. But
For everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
For all of us.
But, it's interesting when it was November, where I was still under 10,000 followers, and I, plugging along, like I was consistent. I would comment back and forth. I wanted it to be social. I wanted to connect. And then it was really 2 posts that they took off. And that's where we grew very quickly. And I'm not
like
going to
100,000 plus followers quickly, everyone. Like they're now at 125. And in 4 months?
Yeah.
Total viral. Like, wow, it's so interesting.
It is. But I sometimes think back and I'm like, a lot of these people probably aren't my people.
Right. Like how did they?
So that's where you get into the numbers look great. I love it. And it does show that I'm sharing and connecting. But then sometimes you're like, ooh, that's like a lot of people. And how many of them am I reaching? How many of them are really interested? So again, it's that like game of, it's great. And then sometimes it's like, ugh.
The game of questions, because the questions literally just shift from, when you have 5,000, 10,000, like it's just, now you have 125. It's a different set of questions that you're asking yourself.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to have that huge jump as well, rather than a slow build, because you're wondering who these people are.
Are they real?
Why are they engaging or following to start? Yeah. Like what made that happen?
Yeah.
And are you really
recreate, right? Like I've tried to recreate it. Can I make it happen again? and it hasn't happened again. So I don't know if it just had to be something was right, hit the algorithm right, and just was pushed out to a lot of people. We had a ton of shares, a ton of comments. So it was just like a trifecta of, things that happened at the right time, right place. But I mean, I do like it. I feel like I found new people, or new people have found us to connect with. And it does open us up to a little more of a broader audience that we can now be teaching to.
100%. I never found out, I never asked you previously, what were the posts? Were they static photo posts? Were they reels? Like, what posts went viral for you? I'm just curious.
So they were both reels, and it was literally me pouring something. So one was honey, one was I was making a tincture over like plant material, and a voiceover.
Oh, interesting. So very subdued.
Yeah. Yep. That, and I think it's like that, the motion, the pouring, it's relaxing, it's eye catching.
Yeah.
So I've tried to redo it many times, and it's
like I'm pouring everything now.
Well, I said maybe we should just become like a pouring Instagram.
Very ASMR.
Yes.
In it, right? Oh, so that's interesting because, and there is never a rhyme or reason of what sticks or what goes. And I think you bring up just a really interesting point. But then you're, as a business owner, you have to figure out, okay, this is my community now, right?
Yep.
And like you said, there are some people I'm really connecting with, and other people, are we even reaching them? Like all of the different aspects of this.
Yeah.
But it's a really fun story because you hear, oh, that went viral, but you're like, what does that really mean to people?
Yeah.
Right? And how does it affect them? But I think, it puts you also in a position where you can expand some of your digital pieces. So, one thing we didn't say is that Shannon her home base is in New Jersey. So anything that's in person, people mostly from the East Coast or, will come in state. So you've expanded though. I mean, well, what I love is that you have these different silos to your business. There is the e-commerce piece. There's the in-person retail shop. You have different forms of education. I know you do this 10-month apprenticeship as well, where it's really passing on the knowledge. And you're opening an online course and membership. So tell us about expansion with these other areas that aren't, that are the teaching mode.
Yeah. So we're trying to really reach, I don't want to say as many because I don't want to become this huge, millions of people taking, I still want it to be small, but we get so many people asking, do you offer classes online? Do you do anything online? And for the longest time, we didn't. It was strictly in store, on the farm, at a local park, foraging. But we are, opening up a membership on April 4th we're going to open it for 2 weeks for the founding members to come in, and it's called The Table, and it's going to be open for anybody. It's all digital, and it's going to be online courses, membership site where you could connect with others. So you could be connecting with folks all over. And we're going to be doing a monthly Q&A session with the people in The Table. So it's going to be a great way for others to learn and also to connect with, not just learn from us, but to learn from other people that will be in The Table, from composting to fermenting to growing and foraging herbs. So all of the things we do, kind of incorporating it into one space where we can now extend it to others who aren't in New Jersey.
That's awesome. That's so exciting.
Yeah, it is.
And there's something for those of us who don't live that life, it's romanticized in a way, where you're oh, I just have a touch to be I'm inside of reality in a different way now, and so making it accessible to people outside of just this physical realm. I'm really excited for you about that.
Yeah, we're super pumped. We just filmed our second course. So now this week, my focus is on editing it. So I've become a videographer, a video editor,
Oh, well, yeah, you're not getting out of here without talking about content creation because that's one of the things as small business owners, right? We have to do everything. And in this day and age, we all have to make content. you have mastered this. You've really figured out how to take what you do and create a beautiful vignette of it. I mean, every beautiful word I could think of is what you create in these small reels and images and all of that. So, was that something just self taught and you're kind of capitalizing on the good light coming in from the window? Or like, how did you get so good, Shannon?
In my past life, I was a photographer.
Oh,
So I did. I shot families, kids, newborns, things like that many years ago. So yes, I understand lighting and stuff like that. So that is something I do understand. Writing is not a strong point for me. So that's something that I'm learning. We have a very active blog where we post weekly. We put out a new blog post every week. So that's, static content that's being put out for anybody to read and enjoy. But then like the reels, the posts, the things on Instagram and Facebook, those are, I enjoy doing it. I do. I like creating those short form videos, longer videos, which is kind of what has held us back from doing courses in the past, has just been something that's kind of scared me. So now that we're jumping into that, I'm starting to learn to edit long form videos, and, maybe one day it'll lead to a YouTube channel. I don't know. We'll just keep it throwing content out there.
Yeah, totally. Well, your content, and it just goes to show for the audience, when they go to your Instagram, Mayernick Kitchen, they will be able to see, like, I mean, you really reveal who you are and who your brand is through this content. I mean, it is a great example of that, because you think of all of those pieces, the beautiful environment, the lighting, the small tasks that you're doing, the pouring over, those type of things. Like, you're very intentional about it, and it does makes you want to buy something, right? You're like, and it's almost like how we all, I have not been to your store physically, but I imagine the environment of you walk in and you're like, I want to stay here.
Yes.
Like, I just want to stay here. I've got a farm near me that has like a little farm store, and I'm always like, I don't even need anything. I'm here walking around.
Couple moments of relaxation. Yeah.
It's really a testament to your whole brand too, of like, you create this environment in person, you create this environment online. And I think that's something really to point out for everyone here, that we all have the power to do that, right?
Sure.
We all have the power to create an environment and a feeling through what we're putting out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And, sometimes it does seem a little more magical or, romantic. And some days it's out of control. But, so it's not always but I like to think of it as, if you're creating something for you, your family, a friend, you want to put good intentions into it. You don't want to rush and just throw it all together. You want to kind of take your time and, okay, maybe think about the person you're making it for, or why you're making it. Or if it's for you, okay, this is going to help me. So that's also a good reminder, to slow down and not just always rush through it. Okay, now I have this, now I'll maybe use it, maybe I won't. I think when you put your attentions into it, it's going to become something you want to use, and it's going to help you. So.
Oh, I love that. And, I always say, I was like, for myself, I'm smiling when I'm writing clients emails. Like, I'm like, I'm happy to be telling you this or that. Like, I'm putting that energy into it, and I just do it naturally. And the same as you, with that intention. And it's a really good point, because I think we've been so caught up in this social media whirlwind, and we have to get it out there, and we're just doing it to do it sometimes. Yeah. And then we're wondering why it doesn't work, why it doesn't stick, right? And so it's actually a very good testament to the success you have on these platforms as well, is that you're putting this care and intention into it.
Yeah. And I think when it comes to, health and either something I'm making for somebody else or just to have in the store for someone to buy, I don't want to be angry making it, because I feel like that energy is going to go right into the medicine that I'm making. So, yeah, it does become intentional. And like I said, there are days that are not pretty and just like anything else, but
Totally, totally.
yeah.
Well, that's a good, another good point is that you're creating healing. I mean, this is a healing business. I mean, we're talking about it right now as a branding piece, but really like that intention goes in because it is tinctures and medicines for people, all of that. Like, yeah, how did you just get started in that? Like, how? It's such an interesting piece to say, like, oh, I want to, like, what was the first thing that you made that made you say, oh, I found elderberry, these flowers, I'm going to do this?
So it was actually a class I took maybe 14 or so years ago. It took it up in Chester, New York, and it was at this little tiny herb shop. I went with a coworker, and the woman who was presenting the class is now my mentor, teacher, herbalist. So from that literal class, I absolutely fell in love with the idea of it. I didn't grow up gardening. I didn't grow up, I was a kid that would cover myself in Vicks and take cough medicine and all the things, you know what I mean? I didn't grow up like that. So I had no clue, but I went to this one class and came home and was like, Matt, this is what I want to do. And it took years. I didn't just quit my full-time job and jump into it, but I did a 3-year apprenticeship with the woman who was teaching the class, Robin Rose Bennett, and just owe so much gratitude to her for teaching me so much of what I know and just allowing me to then realize this is what I want to do and continue on that path. So it really was one class. And when I tell people that, they're like, come on. I'm like, no, really. I went home with a little jar of some, it was hawthorn berries and juniper berries, and we made like a little cough syrup. It was in the fall. And I was just like, what is in here? And then just it spiraled from there.
Yeah. And it's just a reminder for all of us to get out of our day-to-day, follow what interests you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big believer in you can create a successful business out of anything that you're interested in. You just really need that interest and that drive to be able to follow through, because you need to always, it's consistency. You've been consistent over these years and keep expanding. And you bring up an interesting point too there about the seasonality of things. So that is like a huge piece of your business. Like certain plants grow in certain seasons, like, depending on the harvest or what you're getting. So can you talk about how that affects or how you plan even in your business because of seasonality?
Yeah. Seasonality is huge for us. I mean, if you think about any farmer, right, you have your season. So yes, we have a growing season. But what we have come to learn now over the years that we've had the farm is, what we need to grow more of, what we need to cut back on that we're not using a lot. So that's, your simple piece. Okay, we need more of this, we need less of this. But when it really comes to seasonality, is we're coming into a season now where things are starting to wake up, things are starting to grow outside. So now we're getting into, okay, so what can we start foraging? What is starting to grow? We have about 3,500 plants right now in our house downstairs under grow lights and, heat mats. So we're starting all of our plants from seed, and it just continues through the summer. So, you get into the summer, you start harvesting more, cutting back. Then we're making medicine with fresh plant material. Then we're getting into the fall and we're harvesting now for the end of the season, still making fresh plant material, but then also starting to dry a lot of the herbs because we need those herbs to carry us through the next few months where nothing is growing. What a lot of folks don't understand is sometimes we make batches of things that are fresh, and then either they have a short growing season or we just didn't have a great harvest, or so sometimes products then you won't see again for another 6 months or so.
Right,
so
it's
hard in that aspect when,
what do you mean it's sold out? What do you mean?
Right. Like
fresh.
Last year we had a terrible drought, no rain in over 30 days or so. So it's hard, the plants suffered. So some things just didn't grow as well as we had hoped. And you got to kind of move on, try something new, bring something else in.
Yeah. So, with that seasonality, I mean, that's really got to affect your business in certain ways. Like, how do you communicate that,
Yeah.
Your audience, like, hey, everybody, we got 50 bottles. And when they're gone, they're gone. Is
Yeah.
like, like.
And that's what we do sometimes. And that then also drives that, oh, I need that. That's like scarcity kind of thing, So
But it's real.
it works out,
100% real.
Yeah. Sometimes it works out great because people are like, yes, I need, I'm going to get that. Other times it doesn't necessarily work out well and people are, why don't you have this? I don't understand. So that's where educating comes into it. And then once you educate someone on either your process or how farming works, I only have this amount of time to grow plants.
Right.
So that we look at it then as like an education standpoint. So let me educate them and hopefully then they understand and say, okay, I get it now.
Right. And do you run some programs like get on our newsletter and we'll let you know first? Like, because that is a really smart tactic to say, hey, if you're a loyal follower, like we're going to release it here before we put it out to the main.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a pretty strong newsletter. We send a newsletter out every Tuesday morning. And yes, our newsletter readers get everything first. So whether that's classes, because our classes do like sell out quickly because we have limited space in the kitchen, products, anything that we have going on, it goes out to them first. And then I start trickling it out to social media if whatever it is isn't sold out or, hasn't done well. So yeah, newsletter is our number one thing. And it's always, as a business woman, newsletters are so important because you never know what's going to happen with social media. And I know a lot of people preach about having your own email list because you kind of own that. And I am such a advocate for that because I've seen what could happen with, social media. One day
you were hacked as well. So you've experienced both sides, the side of viral and getting hacked and having to shut your whole page down.
Yeah. Yep. So it's a hard line sometimes to, navigate.
It's crazy how there is no, and granted, pages, yes, we're using this free platform, but they're gaining from us and there's advertising and, all of this stuff, but it's the Wild West out there.
It is, for sure.
You make me think of something else that you've had to learn as well. And how do you handle this? Like the whole packaging, shipping, labeling, all of that kind of stuff. Like that's something you don't outsource, right? You do all of that.
Yeah. So thankfully, my husband has owned his own business. He owns a digital agency for the past 20 years. So he's dealt in many different types of businesses. So he has a background on a lot of this, which I'm so thankful for because I would be floundering.
Digital strategist.
Yeah. So when we first started, we were, everything was very much so, okay, an order would come in, I'd pack it, and it was trial and error. What packing materials work well, what boxes work well, how are we shipping this? And now we've got it very streamlined. And, we send out maybe 20 to 30 boxes a week nationwide. And it's now just so like automated, labels printing, pick sheets and everything. So it's come a long way from where we were, almost 8 years ago when we started sending boxes out. But now it's one of my favorite things because I get to see like, oh, this box is going to somewhere in the middle of Wyoming or, so it's fun to see where our products are kind of ending up.
Yeah, that's a cool aspect of it to kind of see how you're reaching these different areas besides your neighborhood or your immediate community type of thing. But it goes to show too that for every part of your business, you need a system. You have got to have a system and you just start. You just start because you had to figure it out. I just did an episode on the importance of testing in our business, testing marketing, testing ideas. And I'm going to be following up more with this because of data collection and analytics and things like that and tracking. But like, you're a perfect example of just even what boxes worked, what shipping materials worked better. You've got to test all of the different parts of your business.
Yeah. I mean, testing is huge. Even, testing anything, making like product recipes and shipping and testing. Is this going to work on this platform or is this going to work better on this platform? So yeah, when you own a business, you wear a lot of hats, as you know. So And of course, you could get help from the outside. We have a few people that are helping us do different things. And I think when you get to that point is when you realize, okay, if we want to continually grow, we need to maybe start passing some things off, because then you just get overwhelmed. Your life is inundated with work and you need that balance. So that's also something super important to us is, that life work balance, because he could be on the farm all weekend long and then have to work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday at his, full-time job. And I could, get swallowed by everything we do if I didn't have that balance, or try to create that balance at least.
Yeah, it's so important just for our own, besides your marriage, our own mental health of it all. I do end up doing a lot on weekends, but I do balance that out, go spend time with my family and my husband. I mean, we have now even, it's so silly, but like we have a Sunday morning date where we go to Whole Foods and like shop. We're like 8 a.m. We're like, we are in the car on Sunday and we're laughing and we're having a good time. And we're like, okay, this is a little bit more together time where we never grocery shopped before together. Like, I mean, every once in a while, but now it's like
we do this
weekly Whole Foods.
Sunday morning, we like go to Whole Foods and we get bagels, and it's like, okay, that's our Sunday morning. Like, I said,
and a little time together. The kids are still in bed, and we're like, okay, we're out and about.
And you have to, and you find those little pockets, like maybe a Tuesday night dinner out, or like. And I think for both of us, because we both work in this, our business, it's hard because he's coming in at different angles from things he knows.
Yep.
I'm not as versed in business as he is because, like I said, he's owned his business for 20 years. So it's sometimes a struggle because I'm like, well, I don't know what to do. He's like, just do it, so.
Totally. Well, what's interesting too is that you have in your business, since you have all these touch points, there are different skills that you use and different times you're coming in. Like you've got the whole digital piece and that e-commerce piece that you need to know about. And then you've got the content creation, but then you have the physical, the retail store and shipping and products. And you've got to be prepared to have boxes to ship out. I mean, there are so many, whereas someone who just owns a retail store has that under it. But then you have a farm. You've got to think about, and one of my questions I wanted to ask too, I just remembered, is like, you got to think about pests and deer eating everything, right? Like that's a whole nother piece. Like, okay, how do we do this naturally? Because we're in that mode, right? Like, so there's all these pieces that you need to, bring together in different areas because of the different silos and streams in your business.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot. And a lot of times, thankfully, what we're growing, so medicinal herbs, right? It's not like a tomato or a pepper that needs, number one, constant looking after. Water source, you don't need a ton. Like I don't need a ton of water. It's a lot of groundwater. So it's great that what we're growing is a little more self-sufficient. So we're able to really rely on that. So we don't need to be hovering over the plants to make sure. And a lot of pests, like you brought up, yes, could be a huge factor. But because they're medicinal plants, a lot of pests, we don't really have much pest issue. Because
the deer do not come and munch on.
It's fenced in. Where we're growing is fenced in. So that we would definitely have deer and bear and everything else trying to eat it. But thankfully, up until this point, we've been, a few plants that the pests do bother, and we leave the plants there. So the pests stay with those plants and don't affect everything else.
Yes, right.
We don't automatically pull them or get rid of them because let the bugs have them, and then they tend to leave everything else alone.
Right. So interesting. Yeah, because anything I create, I'm in Jersey too. Anything I garden, I mean, I'm coming out with a new garden this year that's going to have like a cage over it to keep those deer and squirrels off of everything. I mean, the only thing I can really grow is basil that they have no interest in.
Yeah.
I'm like, we have a ton of basil here, but I was like, wow, she probably has everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, this is awesome. And, I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing all of this.
Yeah.
For our audience, I want to make sure you know that Shannon has extended a 10% discount on your online order with a discount code, the long game 23. That'll also be in the show notes, so you can check back anytime. So definitely check out her shop, Mayernick Kitchen. Links in the show notes as well. And of course, follow her on Instagram where you'll get lost in beauty. And, thank you so much. Oh, and we're going to also link to the table coming out. So like people can join if you're hearing this when this launches and, feed that other side of yourself.
Yeah. Get curious, get interested. And even if you're working with a small patio with pots, you could grow so much, and it could be both medicinal and culinary. But yeah, you don't need a farm. You don't need a huge backyard. A lot of what we do is very accessible to everybody. So we would love for you to follow along and join, and we hope to see you.
Awesome. And we will be there. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me today. You can access more information, links mentioned in this episode, and the show notes at thelonggamepodcast.net. If today's show connected with you in some way, please share it with your friends or hop on and leave a review. Both of these make a really big difference. All right, until next time, keep playing the long game.